Today's guest is Yousef Elhariry, an entrepreneur who made his first million before most people finish college and has helped generate more than $20 million for his clients. But what caught my attention wasn't actually the numbers and revenue that he's generated. It's that while most entrepreneurs are obsessing over AI, funnels, automation, and the next growth or income opportunity of 2026, Yousef believes many of them are running in the wrong direction entirely. He argues that the biggest opportunities of the next decade won't come from copying from what's already working. They'll come from people capable of original thought in a world increasingly flooded with information, automation, and those AI generated pieces of content out there. In today's conversation, we'll explore why most online businesses are more fragile than they appear, what happens when AI makes information and execution nearly free, why the lifespan of business opportunities are shrinking faster than ever before, and what creates a durable advantage when everyone has access to the same tools. We'll also dive in the future of wealth creation, the transfer from ideas from the digital world into the physical world, and what the entrepreneurs building generational wealth over the next 20 years will understand that everyone else misses. Because if AI continues on its current trajectory, the question won't be who has the most information. The question will be who can see what nobody else sees. Yousef, welcome to the Operator Podcast.
Ethan, thank you for having me. Absolute pleasure.
Pleasure is mine. So just to get started, you're very successful at a young age, but what fascinates me the most is you spend a lot of time talking about purpose than profit. What did you learn about wealth that most people only discover after they spent years chasing it?
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that. When I first got started, I was probably where most viewers or most people nowadays in the online money space kind of start, where I was just my main focus was how can I make the most amount of money possible. So I went from model to model to model to model until I tried all the models. I tried the drop shipping, the sneaker reselling. I tried to do some Facebook reselling marketplace stuff, and ultimately came to the conclusion that the only way that you can actually make money online and just money in general is you provide value to people. Now, this is kind of where most people kind of stop. It's like, you're like, hey, how can we provide the most amount of value as possible? It's like we hear the V word, right? Everyone's talking about value in your content, value in this, value in that. But you're missing the most important part. When everything is kind of the same, when all of what you're providing, whether it's content or your service or the way you think about your products is all the same, it no longer becomes valuable. If gold was everywhere, if you can find gold on the street, or if you can find money on the street, it would no longer be valuable. So the thing that really transformed me from just being yet another agency or just yet another service provider was understanding that the thing that's truly valuable is what's unique to me, which is the thoughts, the unique things about you specifically that make you extremely like it differentiates you from the whole entire market. Most people sit down, they're like, okay, how can I take this existing concept and market it completely differently? That's not you being different. Like that's not a differentiating factor, right? That's just like you repackaging the same, thing over and over again. What's actually unique and what's actually different is like, hey, what if we forgot how people did marketing, how people did business for the last 10, 20 years? And let's just come up with our own unique way. Let's come up with something completely, entirely brand new. And sometimes it will fail and sometimes it will work, right? But more often than not, it's a lot higher like chance of it actually breaking out and exceeding expectations if you're just rather than if you're just like using a normal, regular method that everyone's been doing for a really long time. True wealth is made when your whole entire life goal and your whole entire life mission is, hey, how can I help the most amount of people possible, rather than like, hey, how can I make the most amount of money as I can. Ethan, imagine, we got two business owners right here, right? We had one business owner whose whole entire goal, and they'll tell you this straight up, it's like, hey, I'm trying to get as many guys as you possible. I'm just trying to make as much money as you guys, like off of you guys as possible. And then we have this other business owner. He's like, hey, Ethan, I wake up in the morning and my number one thing, the thing that makes me get out of bed and feel excited and actually work all these long hours and put in all this effort is I want to take people like you specifically and I want to make your life better. Who are you more likely to trust? You're obviously more likely to trust the other guy, right? So you need to strive to be like the other guy. And that's how you truly build more wealth, because people will trust you more and you'll just build way better products, way better services in the long run.
One of the biggest nuances that I want to address of what you said, so first of all, amazing answer. One thing that I want to address is It's great to be completely different. However, you still want to acknowledge the fundamentals of business, and it all boils down to human psychology. So, for a person who used to be an overthinker, I went to try to do all the business models. Oh, I'm going to do some super shiny marketing new thing that I just came up with, but it flopped because I ignored the basics of human psychology. I believe that's one of the most important things that you must still understand when it comes to just
Exactly.
business as a whole.
Think of it like this. Imagine you have building blocks, right? Now, just because you want to create a crazy ass house that no one's ever built before, it's like a crazy new design. It doesn't mean that you neglect the foundations and the principles of, building, right? You're not going to build something that's going to topple because that's what ends up happening. You think like, okay, I'm going to create this like new unique design, but then you forget the basic foundations. So usually this like what I would say is like learn what are the fundamentals of business. And the way that I break down the fundamentals of a business, it breaks into 5 core components. You have 2 things that you need to figure out before you even start building anything, which is who are you going to sell to? Who do you actually want to help with the thing that you're building? And what is your offer? What is it actually that you're offering? And you want to ensure that your audience is someone who you actually relate to or you actually have empathy towards, right? Where this person you actually care about. If we ask the typical B2B marketing guy, do you really care about helping HVAC companies get more leads? Just so you're like, bro, I don't care about HVAC. I just care about making money. This is like the worst way they can possibly build an offer because you're not really going to be incentivized to actually create something and go above and beyond for them. Think of how Russell Brunson created ClickFunnels. His whole thing is internet marketers. He really loves the internet marketing space. And so he thought to himself, he's like, what do these guys need? And then he's like, wait, they need something that isn't even out there yet. It's something that isn't even on the market. So he decided, okay, I'm going to create this new software. And then it became one of the biggest softwares ever when it comes to the online marketing space. So that's your audience, right? Your offer is basically determining, okay, what is their problem? Where are they trying to get to? This gap right here. What is genuinely the best method in order to solve this thing? Most people, what they'll do is, what skills do I have that I can offer them? And they kind of do it that way. What you need to do is you need to reverse engineer, right? So you need to look at, okay, this gap, it exists. How can we actually go ahead and solve it? What is the best method possible? Even if it means investing more money or time, or I need to learn something new, that is totally fine. But when you position yourself as this is the best solution, you're automatically going to be miles ahead of your competition who's just copying what's been done for the last 10, 20 years. Imagine we take this example of like the B2B, you're doing HVAC companies, right? And everyone's running Facebook ads. Imagine there was a new platform. Let's just take TikTok. Imagine you discovered a way with TikTok ads to actually make 10 times, 20 times as much money for your clients, right? While everyone else is doing Facebook ads because that's the way it's been going for the last 10 years and that's what's been performing, you instead are going to this new market because this is genuinely the best way to get your clients results. And so you'll go ahead and learn it. It's not going to be cheap. It's going to take you some time. It's going to be expensive. But the payoff of that is that your clients are going to genuinely see you as the best option. Then you have the other 3 parts. Sorry, I'm going to keep this a little bit shorter. You have acquisition, right? So how do you acquire customers? Like that's like a fundamental thing. You have inbound, outbound, pretty self-explanatory. Then you have your sales. It's like, okay, now they've gotten people interested. You've given them enough value to trust you. How do you actually close them as people? So that's your sales. That's the sales department of any business. And then finally, you have your delivery. How do you actually deliver your service or your product? If you take any business on earth, it boils down to these 5 companies. I don't care if it's Apple. I don't care if it's SpaceX. It literally boils down to the same thing. And it applies to your agencies. It applies to your service business models as well.
It's a good point. And to put a pinpoint on what you said, it all boils back to people. And I know the go-to phrase when it comes to getting value in the mutual relationship of business is getting people to know, like, and trust you. I also want to bring it one step further. You want to get people to know, like, trust you, respect you, know your judgment, and trust your judgment. Because it's great if I get you to laugh and it builds up some rapport and humor, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get the person to pay for a $10,000 a month package. So to flip it and go back to people for a second, what do ambitious people discover too late about money?
They think that money is the number one thing that's stopping them from carrying out their ambition. I'm currently working on probably arguably the biggest project I've ever encountered in my whole entire life. And if it wasn't for 4 weeks ago, almost a month ago, me realizing, hold on, I actually don't need millions of dollars. If I just try to make this myself and I just go ahead and execute it, then I can do it. Now, fast forward, now this company is basically valuated at around $40 million. And it was just within a span of a month of starting this company, right? I wouldn't have reached that point if I sat there and be like, okay, well, first I need to make millions of dollars, then I'll go into this, other software company, then I'm going to go into this. Ultimately, if you're ambitious, you have a vision, you have a dream, you need to ensure that you're following that dream no matter what. Doesn't matter about money, doesn't matter, oh, I need this much experience, I need this much team members. These are all excuses to stop you from taking action. You could probably today take one action, right? The problem with most people who have ambition is you think too far ahead. You're thinking, okay, after step three, I'm probably going to be blocked because I don't have enough money to hire someone. Okay, well, bro, have you even taken the first step? Take the first step and we'll get there when we get there, right? That's always been my philosophy whenever I'm building any new project or any new companies. We'll get there when we get there, right? If you've gotten there and you're actually seriously blocked, please DM me, right? Because I am yet to see someone who has followed this principle and not have it figured out eventually when they reach that point. You know, when you reach that point where you have a product and now you're like, oh, I don't know how to market it because I need money. Well, you're going to find the right people who will help you market it. And you don't need that much money to begin with.
A lot of people that are in my audience demographics definitely resonate with what you said. They've always found that even though it feels like fantastic in their head of like, I'm gonna map out all the 10 steps before I take step one. So I love your point when it comes to having those what I call irreversible actions, something that you can do today that increases the likelihood of you getting success and raising your success baseline. So to briefly talk about more of what you're trying to be known for, of talking more about the raw content itself, those new ideas, what does your actual process look like for generating original ideas that don't sound like everyone else online?
I'd say the biggest thing is I don't consume as much as I like. You need to create more than you consume. That's the biggest thing. So my whole thing is like, okay, who do I listen to? Well, I don't really listen to a lot of people, and maybe this is going to be the most interesting thing that you hear today. But I genuinely look at myself as the source of the best ideas on earth. It's extremely narcissistic and it's extremely arrogant, but it's what got me to this point, right? And so anyone who has an opinion, I need you guys to understand this. Anyone who has an opinion or is telling you this is the way that it is, okay, well, that's according to their worldview. That's according to their experiences and what they've witnessed, right? Someone who's like, you need to send 100 messages of outreach every single day to make money. Well, that's according to them because that's what they experienced. But there could be another dude remote, like he doesn't know anything about this other dude. He sends one message and he ends up closing a client. And they're both right. They're both right in the sense that this guy only needs to send one message, this other guy needs to send 100. In order to come up with original ideas, you need to understand that your ideas are based on your beliefs and how you view the world. If the way that you view the world does not serve you, it means you need to have this and this and this and this and this in order to succeed. Guess what? There's two possible reasons. Either you get this really long list of things for you to succeed, and then the ideas that will come will also be based on these limitations, or you simply remove your limitations and understand that there is no limitations. It's only what you place in your mind. Now, a mind without limitations is free to dream. It's free to come up with these really big ideas. And the way that you free yourself from these limitations is by understanding where did these limitations come from, which is usually just consuming people on social media and what people tell you. And the second of all, is just constantly being surrounded by noise. When's the last time you guys have sat down in a room alone, silently with yourself and your thoughts for 30 minutes? Now, I'm going to ask you another question, and this is going to change everybody's life that is watching this right now. Do you know what your next thought is going to be? Now, if you are actually paying attention, your mind probably just went blank. That little voice inside of your head kind of just went silent, and it didn't know what to respond. That's exactly the process. Your mind is basically like a radio, and depending on which station you're tuned into, are the kind of thoughts that are popping up into your head. The issue with most people is that they're tuned into the wrong station. They're wondering, why am I getting the same ideas as everyone else? Well, you're tuned into the same station as everybody else. You need to find your own channel. You need to find your own way of thinking. And you do that by removing everybody else's voices and then finding your own voice of what am I actually trying to accomplish in this life? Am I just trying to be another B2B agency, SaaS, whatever, whatever people are building nowadays? Or am I trying to be someone who actually has an impact on the world? Someone who changes the world and actually helps people and changes people's lives for the better.
There's a lot of what you said. I want to put a few pins on everything. So first, for context for the viewers, right before we hit the record button, Yousef and I were talking about his literal background, and I commented saying that he doesn't have the typical info product guru role, which everyone knows for context of like those black grids, rids, and everyone uses it for the typical coaching course setup, which I love. Second being, I have a two-part question for you, is first, what's your actual environment look like when you're coming up with those ideas? For myself, it's in a cold room. I'm lying on my bed, staring at the ceiling while just finished a 30, 45 minute workout session. So that's the first part of the question. And then Second part is once you answer that, how do you know when you're truly creating or just remixing someone's idea?
Okay. First part of the question, I would say usually my best ideas come in usually after whether prayer or meditation. So obviously whatever you believe in. Those are usually when my best thoughts are coming from. And then the second thing is you can never really know if you're coming up with a unique idea or you're remixing with something else. And I'll even push it a step further. I've had so many instances where I've came up with genuinely a unique idea. And then fast forward a month later, or I just don't execute on the idea. So I get basically this download. Think of it as like you get a Slack message saying, "Hey, you should go ahead and pursue this idea." And you're kind of like, I don't know if I should pursue it. I don't have the time. I don't have the money, whatever. You come up with some excuse. And then fast forward a month later, 2 months later, this other dude with the same exact idea executes it and actually goes ahead and gets all the upside, gets all the money, the fame, whatever you actually are desiring. So ultimately, it's like, well, maybe there's like kind of like a collective Google Drive that we all download from. If you're on like the right space, if you're on the right link, you can download the right ideas. And it just depends on who executes on them faster. The way you find this out, it's like if you're an artist, right? And this will kind of move on to the AI questions. But if AI is creating so much stuff 24/7 and there's always constant creation, eventually everything that there is to be created will be created. So then would that mean originality is dead? That's a serious question. Maybe you guys can think about it. But I don't think originality will be ever dead because the number one thing AI can never do is it can't create new thoughts, right? AI, if you guys are into AI and understand how AI works, it's a language model, meaning it kind of uses what it already knows to predict what happens next. But it can never generate, it can never synthesize something from just nothing. And you get that because you have a soul, you're a human. And that's what separates a human from a machine.
Hmm. There's a lot of what you said, and the first thing kind of to pivot towards the AI is there's nothing new under the sun, and that's a phrase that everyone has shared. And with AI is only as good as the context you feed it. So my first question to you when it comes along the lines of AI, I've noticed that the online business world often discovers profitable business models years before like the like in-person world adopts them. If someone wanted to build, let's say, generational wealth over the next decade, where would you look for these AI opportunities to transfer ideas from the information economy to the physical economy?
I'm going to say number one, as I said, find someone in a problem that you're actually like more than passionate enough to solve it. The idea of okay, how do we use AI to transition this to this? It's like okay, AI can think of it as a tool, right? We can't sit here and say okay, how do we use a hammer to build the best possible houses? Well, that's kind of the wrong question to ask in the sense like you need to think okay, what houses do I want to build, and then whether or not this hammer is the right tool to build these houses in order to transition your skills, right? If you are actually a good marketer and you understand the principles of business, like we talked about the 5 parts of the business, and you understand these things, you can apply these principles to any business. So for my skill sets, I can apply these into an in-person business. If I were to ever get a corporate job and work in marketing, I can apply it there. I can apply it to a software company. I can apply to many different things because I understand what makes these things work. Meaning, I'm not going to give you a template on how to create the best funnels ever, or like this is the best funnel template in the world, or this is the best email template. This is how you structure your video sales letter. That's like the worst thing I can ever do to you. But if I tell you, hey, psychologically, this is what makes someone go from an absolute just stranger who doesn't know who you are by the end of a 1 hour video, they're able to trust you, like you. They're just like they're your super fan, and they're begging you to take their credit card numbers. If you understand what makes someone make that decision, you can then take that same exact kind of principle, you can take that same process and you can then apply it to any different business, whether you're selling roofing or construction or you're selling water bottles, right? You're able to understand these principles. Even we can go high ticket if you're selling cars or you're selling insurance or you're selling any of these things, you can then apply to there. It doesn't matter if you're selling a course, a car, whatever. If you understand the principles of business, you can then apply it to anything. Same thing with AI. AI is simply a way for you to replace these core components of your business. It's either to help you get acquisition better, so to acquire more customer easier, or for you to close these customers easier, so helping you in your sales process, or to help you with the delivery of everything that you're doing. It helps you with the service you're offering or your product you're offering, and it just helps you with that. AI isn't this like magical thing that prints money. It's this thing that replaces or helps you make these 3 parts of your business more efficient.
Mm. To do a very quick tactical follow-up, what would be an example of a company doing what you just outlined?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Let's just take info growth operators as an example, right? The biggest problem that most people struggle with is acquisition, right? You're sitting there in the outreach trenches, you're begging people, being like, please watch my Loom, bro, please,
I'm
right?
just following up.
Just following up, G, just making sure you look like, so you're there in the trenches, right? Let's break it down fundamentally on, okay, what will make someone actually respond? Let's just say you don't have any case studies, you don't have anything, right? He doesn't really know you. The number one thing that will actually make someone respond is like, okay, am I getting value out of this? Can I use whatever that message? I'm going to read this quick message. Do you catch my attention enough? And can I use this instantly without having to give you anything back in return? By the way, guys, wealthy people are very, very, very cognizant and very careful of accepting free stuff from people because there's always a catch. Everyone's expecting something in return. So they know that. They're very wary. And so if you're DMing someone who's had some success and you want to work with them, you genuinely need to be like, hey, I don't expect anything in return from you. And it's going to be such a pattern because everyone is giving. They're not actually giving. You're kind of like on the edge. Do I go full out? Do I spend a lot of time and effort giving this person a lot of value, but then they might not respond to me? You're on edge. You're not fully giving. What I'm saying is you should fully give. Understand, okay, what is one thing they can actually use right now and make them money? That could be a landing page that actually connects to a lead system. Like he doesn't need to hop on a call with you to actually claim this like free resource that you're giving, right? Imagine you set that up for him, or you re-edited a whole video, or you scripted out of a VSL, and somehow, I'm not going to share exactly where because that could be too much sauce, but you can clone people's like whole faces, send it over to your editor. Your editor will edit a VSL, right? And then from there, you can literally send them a whole VSL with a whole landing page that is ready to go, that he can just like, it's already hosted for him on a custom domain, right? And he did that for every single person you reach out to. Now the question is like, okay, well, Yousef, I don't have all data, like create a VSL and then create a landing page, whatever. We have AI. We could just automate it with AI. So this is how you can take AI to use it and actually create something that is worth value, that helps you acquire more customers. And you took the typical model of acquisition, you just made it a lot more efficient, a lot better with AI.
Funny that you mentioned that sauce tactic of the AI. You stole my method. So funny enough, I'll disclose it. There's this high ticket remote sales guru that if people follow me, they knew who I'm about speaking with. And I pitched him over one of my theme pages before. And he was interested, that I follow up. And then there's this, let's just say, scandal that happened in the online info product space. And I'm going to call this person out. Sam Millsap, from what I've heard, didn't pay his sales team. So this guy, who's very familiar in the high ticket sales community, when Sora AI was still like out, I knew that person liked guitar. I knew that person was in sales and now transitioned to software. If you know, probably. And I said, hey, person's name. And it was a person that looked very similar to that person I'm outreaching to. And the person was playing a guitar. And it's like, hey, name, just following up or something along the lines of that, which is kind of low status. But don't ghost me, just like Sam Millsap did to his team. And so that's amazing and that's great. So it's kind of to wrap up today's conversation, one last question for you. Let's say it's 2035. AI has made everything free, execution free with the AI agents, content free, and distribution cheaper than ever. What's the one thing that you think people will consistently still overpay for?
Good ideas. That's the biggest thing. Apple, and this is so funny, especially with the company that I'm building. The company that I'm building right now is called Just Operate. We're still kind of pre-launching, pre-beta. Maybe by the time this is out, we have our website up and everything. But this is the idea. This is the principle behind it. Imagine you can take your idea and actually execute it. Imagine you had an idea for a new product, and then AI did everything for you. It created the landing pages, it created the websites, it created the actual product for you. Then it did the research on what's actually good in terms of marketing. And then it asks you, hey, like these are some ideas, let's brainstorm on this. You brainstorm some content ideas. It creates the content for you, edits the content for you, posts the content for you. And so when AI makes everything cheap and readily accessible, just like we're building the technology forward with it right now. And obviously, like we have a cutting edge team that is working on this 24/7. Essentially, when technology just makes the execution easy, the only thing that's worth value is how good your ideas are. And so the difference in the future, the people who are really going to get ahead, the people who are going to be billionaires, and then the people who are just going to be your average Joe, right? Your average Joe who's not even going to be worth a lot of, like if you think people in McDonald's and people who are getting paid minimum wage, again, no offense to these people, but If you think these people are going to stick around and minimum wage is going to be a thing, especially with how AI is transforming, that's not going to be the case, right? You're going to literally be worth pennies for an hour because that's how much AI costs. And so companies would much rather hire AI to do the execution. The only thing that will never be replaced is coming up with creative ideas. We talk about creative roles being replaced or editing and this and that be replaced. If you're an editor right now, if you're somewhat of a creative and you don't want to get replaced with AI, the easiest way to do it is stop creating slop. Stop creating slop that could be recreated with AI, right? And eventually AI tools are going to get so good that if you use the AI tools to help you with the execution, to give an example, let's just say you're an editor, you have an idea for an edit. Instead of you sitting there and then going on After Effects and tweaking the keyframes and positioning the elements and doing all these things, what you can instead do is use the AI. It will do the execution for you, and then you have more time to spend on getting more ideas. And so your day goes from 100% of the time, your work, like 90% is spent on execution, and then 10% is ideating. It's just going to be 90% is actually spent on ideating and pursuing new ideas. And then 10% is only like really you paying attention to the execution that's happening with AI.
That has been the Operator Podcast with your guest, Yousef Elhariry. Appreciate you a ton, man.
My pleasure.